Goblin Drill used to be an absolute nightmare. When it first hit the game, there was no spawn delay. The moment the drill reached your tower, a goblin would jump out and immediately start stabbing, dealing instant damage. Plus, the drill burrowed 25% faster, making it harder to react in time, and if that wasn't enough, it spawned 3 more goblins on death, making defense nearly impossible. But the story of the Goblin Drill does not stop there. Its history is packed with glitches, bugs, and surprising twists that only a few players know about. So, get ready for a wild journey through one of Clash Royale's most chaotic and game-breaking cards. This is the full story of the Goblin Drill. It's December of 2018, and retired developer Seth is on stage at a conference in Finland, talking about scrapped card ideas. Concepts like the Ancient Minion, a flying troop that could only target air and buildings, or the Prison Goblin, now known as the Goblin Cage, were discussed with excitement. But one idea stood out, a concept that looked like a Trojan horse, designed to be filled with either skeletons or goblins. This concept inspired the skeleton barrel a year earlier, but if you look closely at the right side of Seth's presentation, you'll notice something even more familiar. The first prototype of the Goblin Drill. I managed to find gameplay footage of this card, and while I can't confirm if it's an official Clash Royale video or just something fan-made, the mechanics match exactly what Seth envisioned, a card that would spawn goblins on the opponent's side after it was destroyed. After that conference, many of these ideas made their way into Clash Royale within weeks or months, but for the Goblin Drill, it took years. And finally, in 2021, we got to experience its full power. It's June of 2021, and the Goblin Drill is available exclusively at a draft challenge. This gave players a chance to figure out if the card was actually good, just average, or maybe even bad. Soon enough, they discovered it was the most broken win condition ever introduced in Clash Royale. But before we dive into the gameplay, there are a few things you need to understand that I already mentioned at the beginning of the video. These are really important to remember, as they'll play a crucial role later. First, the burrowing speed was 25% faster, which made reacting in time more difficult, but not impossible. Second, there was no delay when the goblin spawned. As soon as the drill reached the tower, boom, there was a goblin on it. Third, the Goblin Drill spawned 3 extra goblins when destroyed, so if you didn't have a log in hand, well, good luck dealing with that. Players who unlocked the Goblin Drill early immediately incorporated it into their decks to see how strong it was on the ladder. Brad was one of the first YouTubers who was excited to try out the Goblin Drill, and let's just say he had a blast with it. Many decks started popping up across the arenas, but the combination of Firecracker and Goblin Drill proved to be the most overpowered and irritating. No matter how hard opponents tried to fend off the Goblin Drill, it always managed to deal damage while Firecracker, did her job in the back. It was fun if you were the one playing the deck. And another deck I noticed pretty often was a Golem deck with Goblin Drill. I'm not sure why this worked, but hey, the card was so broken that it could fit into just about any deck you could imagine, so I wasn't even surprised.
Let's go, Goblin Drill on tower. Bats are still alive. We need a little bit more damage. Goblins get the damage, let's go!
Looking at the stats, Goblin Drill hit the #1 spot with a 59% usage rate right after it was introduced. This caused splash damage troops to skyrocket in popularity alongside it. The most common one was my beloved Dark Prince. He worked extremely well against Goblin Drill thanks to his splash damage and ability to survive almost any spell. However, even Dark Prince sometimes wasn't enough to handle the Goblin Drill. The goblins spawned more chaotically back then. They didn't appear directly in the center of the drill like they do today, and that made them that much more difficult to deal with. Another card that skyrocketed in popularity was the Mother Witch, which was quite surprising. She didn't directly counter the Goblin Drill effectively. You'd still take a lot of damage on the tower, but that wasn't the point. The key was her ability to build up a huge push with the piggies. Since the drill spawned so many goblins, she became a great offensive tool. Many players soon realized that going aggressive might have been a mistake, just like Brad here.
Oh no. I'm dead. I think I overcommitted, let's just say, but maybe a bit. Maybe just a little bit. I didn't expect him to have Mother Witch. Who has Mother Witch? Only psychopaths have Mother Witch.
But the real MVP counter to the drill was the bowler. He could easily take down both the drill and the spawned goblins by himself, and then you could use him to support a big counter push with your own drill. This made him a perfect addition to drill decks.
I love it. Watch this. Pop, pop. Oh, I forgot! They nerfed the mirror again, so you... Oh, that's stupid. You can see it. It worked. It doesn't matter if he knows where it's going.
However, the Goblin Drill is an incredibly versatile card. And what I mean by that is how strategically you can use it to your advantage in so many unique ways. Watch this clip where a player uses the drill to push a magic archer to the side, avoiding a fireball. I don't know if this was a happy accident or a calculated prediction, but it's the kind of play that can completely change the outcome of a match. And you're about to see this in full action later by the GOAT himself, Muhammad Light. But that's not all. You can also use the drill to speed up troops. Check out this clip of a Golden Knight getting an extra boost to reach the tower even faster. That's pretty cool. Or watch as a Goblin Demolisher gets pushed quicker to the tower. These are just a few of the epic interactions you can pull off if you know how to play the card right. My favorite though is this insane Expo prediction. By placing the Goblin Drill on the bridge, you can push the Expo to the back. I've never seen anything so wild in Clash Royale. Just wow. But we are just getting started. What you've seen so far pales in comparison of what's to come. That being said, I would love to ask you to do something for me real quick. Please consider subscribing. These videos take so much time for me to create. It's 3 a.m. here, and I'm waking up in 3 hours for work, so honestly, your sub would help fuel this insomniac work schedule I've got going on, so thank you so much. Now, did you know that you could clone the Goblin Drill? The cloned drill would spawn a 1 HP version that didn't attack or spawn goblins. It just kind of followed enemy troops around. This led to some unforgettable and hilarious moments. I don't know about you, but seeing a cloned Goblin Drill just marching towards my tower would definitely make me burst out laughing. So how did this bug work? It happens because while digging, the Goblin Drill is considered a character, not a building. When the drill appears, there's a very short window before the character disappears, and with precise timing, you can clone it. It's super hard to pull off, and unfortunately I'm not sure if this bug was ever fixed or if it's still possible, but I read through some comments where someone said it took them 20 tries to get it right just once. So, excuse me for not testing this myself. I'm definitely not that patient. On ladder, the Goblin Drill continued to be an absolutely broken card, used by anyone who had maxed it out. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, as Supercell quickly realized the mistake they had made. Just 1 week after its introduction, new balance changes were implemented. They added a 1-second delay to the first goblin spawn, adjusted the formation of the goblins spawned upon the drill's destruction, making them closer together in the center of the drill, and reduced the push effect the drill had on ground troops. This was a pretty significant nerf, but even after that, the Goblin Drill continued to dominate, holding a 23% usage rate, making it the 6th most used card alongside the Barbarian Barrel. Brad hopped on to try that newly nerfed Goblin Drill and easily won every single game, showing that the changes were barely a setback. One card that started appearing frequently in both his and his opponent's hands was the Bomber. The Bomber skyrocketed in popularity because players realized he could do the same job as the Dark Prince or Bowler, but for a much cheaper elixir cost. This allowed the Goblin Drill to cycle more frequently, causing a huge meta shift. Spamming Goblin Drills quickly became the most annoying and overpowered strategy in the game. If we look at the stats in June, the Goblin Drill still dominated the meta despite the nerf. One of the best players in Clash Royale, Samuel Bizotto, frequently topped the ladder with a lightning-fast Goblin Drill cycle deck featuring wall breakers. This deck worked brilliantly because it had Bomber for both great defense and offense, paired with a Tesla that handled defensive duties exceptionally well. With relentless drill and wall breaker spams, this deck became popular not just among top players, but also on lower ladder levels. Supercell knew something had to be done because Goblin Drill remained one of the most used cards for days, weeks, and months. So they came up with a solution. In September, they released a balance update that reduced the goblin spawned upon death from 3 to 2. One goblin was kicked out of the gang, and at first this may seem like a small nerf, but it significantly impacted the Goblin Drill's usage rate. although not its win rate. If we check the stats, the Goblin Drill's usage rate dropped to 2%, but its win rate remained at a staggering 55%. That's one of the highest win rates among all the cards you can see on the screen. So the question is, was the Goblin Drill really ruined by this nerf? I don't think so. It seems like a bit of an overreaction to me. Asaph, one of the top players in Clash Royale, managed to defeat Muhammad Light using the nerfed Goblin Drill like it was nothing, proving that this card was far from finished. He also dominated one of the best Expo players, Betfast, as if it were a simple matchup, further cementing the Goblin Drill's place at the top of the meta.
23 seconds, we need another cage fireball cycle, and there it goes. We do hit that fireball on the Electro Spirit. Wait a second, 15, 100 live spectators, 14, 13, 12. Expo is down, 10, 9, 8, and that's gonna be GG. He pulls it off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good game. Whew! GG!
While the Goblin Drill lost its spot among the most used cards in the game, it remained a strong and viable option in the hands of skilled players. For the rest of 2021, the Drill didn't experience any significant rise in usage. It stayed as a solid win condition, strong, but no longer breaking Clash Royale. However, that was about to change, because what happened next year was something no one could have predicted. It's May of 2022, and the arenas are shaken up by a Goblin Drill glitch where you could place 2 drills on top of one another. This sometimes left opponents unaware that they had to counter 2 drills, not one, leading to countless hilarious moments and towers falling unexpectedly.
Most of the P.E.K.K.A, if they try to use it on top of your drill, and at least, especially if you mirror drill, and yeah, so our mirror drill here should do a lot of work. You're just gonna pop and there's gonna be so many goblins on the field, it's just madness. Yeah, so able to easily take his tower here.
While not many players knew about this glitch initially, Brad brought it to the spotlight through his YouTube video, which quickly gained traction. The glitch was a result of a significant mirror buff. Instead of just adding 1 level, the mirror now added 2, allowing players to place a level 14 and level 16 Goblin Drill at the same time, which was absolutely insane. Unfortunately, this glitch was later fixed, but not entirely. If you and your opponent are both playing Goblin Drill decks, you can still use your drill to counter theirs. By placing it in the exact same spot, the 2 drills will stack on each other, allowing you to defend without taking chip damage to your Princess Tower, and leaving you with a few goblins to push back. Pretty cool, right? But that is not all. In 2v2 matchups, you and your teammate can place Goblin Drills in the same spot, stacking them on top of each other. This trick no longer works in 1v1, but it's still a fun and unique mechanic in team play. However, we've only just scratched the surface of the Goblin Drill's journey. Because of the mirror's broken buff that boosted cards by 2 levels, and the recently buffed Electro Giant, which now dealt significant reflected damage on both towers and troops, the E-Giant meta was born, the biggest nightmare of mid-2022.
I think he can stop this. Yeah, it's helpful to memorize what your opponent has. It certainly helps. Wow. Yeah. This deck is broken. In certain matchups especially. What the heck, bro? What the heck?
If we look at Boss's video, we can see players simply giving up after seeing this deck repeatedly because there was literally nothing they could do. However, this is where the Goblin Drill really came in handy. It's not just great for offense, it can also serve as an excellent defensive building, especially during the E-Giant meta. Just watch how perfectly the Inferno Tower synergizes with it. In this clip, the player places an Inferno Tower, followed by a perfectly timed Goblin Drill to pull back both E-Giants. Meanwhile, the Dart Goblin gets insane value, and it's such a satisfying sight to see the E-Giant players struggle. This strategy, combining Inferno Tower and Goblin Drill, became one of the best in mid-2022. The dominance of these decks continued for the next few months, even after Clash Royale nerfed both the Miner and the E-Giant, as players realized just how powerful this combination could be against other meta decks. In June, the Goblin Drill hit an 11% usage rate with a 56% win rate, showing that no matter the meta, the Goblin Drill always digs a way through. Players like Ian77 and Riley were doing exceptionally well with it at the top of the ladder during this time.
Right there, and the P.E.K.K.A is gonna kind of just wander around and yeah, I think our Goblin Drill is still going to need to be responded to right here, because the 2 goblins will still come out. And yeah, it looks like he doesn't respond to it, so...
That was a really nice prediction. I'm gonna drill and then bandit here though, because he doesn't really have the best hand for this. Okay, this Skelly's log. Then I'm gonna go Fire Spirit on the drill here. Wait, what just happened on the right? Wait, I just won. What just happened?
Unfortunately, the Goblin Drill's time in the meta did not last long. Soon enough, new balance changes were introduced, causing the card to slowly but surely fade out of the spotlight. First, in June, Clash Royale slowed the burrowing speed by 25%. This was a significant nerf, as it gave players more time to react. But the changes didn't stop there. 4 months later, in October, Supercell nerfed the Goblin's first attack time to 0.4 seconds from 0.2. Both of these changes had significant impacts on the drill's effectiveness. However, that wasn't the only thing players were concerned about, as Clash Royale had introduced other changes in October of 2022. At this time, the arenas welcomed a new legendary creature, the Phoenix. With its revival ability, high HP, and fast attack speed, the Phoenix immediately skyrocketed to the #1 spot. It was so insanely powerful that many players were in disbelief, wondering how Clash Royale could release a 4-elixir card with the stats of a 6. Honestly, it was pure madness. The arrival of the Phoenix pushed the Goblin Drill out of the meta, as there was no reason to use it. The Phoenix countered the drill effortlessly, and players would spam you with mirrored Phoenixes, leaving you helpless. Only a few top players continued using the Goblin Drill during this Phoenix-dominated meta, but they were very few and far between. In November, the Goblin Drill's usage rate plummeted to just 2%, and its win rate dropped to 47. This was a massive blow for drill enthusiasts, but little did they know that this was just the prelude to something exceptional. And they couldn't have been more right. No one had any idea just how impactful this card would become just 1 year later. Fast forward to March of 2023, and the Goblin Drill was holding steady at a 4% usage rate with an impressive 58% win rate. Muhammad Light, the best player in the game, reached the top ranks with his new Goblin Drill deck featuring the Magic Archer and Golden Knight, claiming the #1 spot that same month. But why was this deck so effective? Well, at first glance, it might seem like a pretty average deck, but it had so much going for it. The Golden Knight was particularly broken at this time, as his ability was unpredictable and worked quite differently than it does today. Players could easily get him to dash back and forth, eventually hitting the tower. The Magic Archer combined with Tornado added even more pressure, acting almost like another win condition by consistently chipping away at the tower. I actually watched this deck in action from start to finish, and there was one insane interaction that stood out. I want to give a huge shout out to Muhammad Light for pulling it off because no one else seemed to notice, but this is exactly why he is the best player in Clash Royale. Let's check out this clip together. We can see the Royal Giant and Giant Skelly push from the opponent. Once the Dark Prince deals with them, Mo quickly places the Golden Knight to push the Magic Archer out of the Giant Skeleton's bomb range, successfully saving him. This clever move essentially secured him an easy victory. Insane.
Nice. That Golden Knight to push the Magic Archer away from the bomb was really key there.
Overall, this deck worked exceptionally well, and it's no surprise that many top players copied this deck and studied his gameplay. The combination of the Goblin Drill, Golden Knight, and Magic Archer was unstoppable. Thanks to Muhammad Light, the Goblin Drill maintained a top spot in the meta among the best players. But things got even crazier in mid-2023, when Clash Royale introduced Evolutions, which brought both love and hate to the community, and led to the rise of some wild new combos. Let's start with a combination of Evo Firecracker and the Goblin Drill. Evo Firecracker was an absolute nightmare at the time. She had 30% more HP, making her survive arrows, and she required 2 additional hits from the Princess Tower to be taken down. On top of that, she had 25% bigger recoil, and her sparks would stack, allowing her to deal insane damage from a distance. Combined with the Goblin Drill, it almost guaranteed major damage to the tower because your opponent had to choose between overspending on the Goblin Drill or the Evo Firecracker. There was just no way to counter both at once, but the Firecracker was only the beginning of the Evo era. When Clash Royale introduced the Evolved Knight, he instantly dominated the meta. While moving, he was practically invincible, taking 80% less damage, and he got 30% more HP, faster attack speed, and more damage overall. Every one of his stats was boosted, and to top it off, you couldn't even hit him while he was moving. He was the perfect tank to pair with Goblin Drill decks. Honestly, I don't know what Clash Royale devs were thinking when they put him out in this state. Just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, they introduced a new champion that completely broke the game, the Little Prince.
What up?
He was far more OP at release than he is today. His ability dealt more HP damage, it had a bigger pushback, and his Guardian had more health and damage as well. Plus, the Little Prince himself charged up his attacks faster, making him the most broken champion at launch by far. But he was also pretty buggy, which led to some fascinating interactions. For example, did you know that you could use his ability to push the Goblin Drill while it was underground? Pretty cool, right? But that was not all. A master of bugs and glitches named Milo the Great discovered a unique interaction where he used two little princes to literally wipe out the Goblin Drill while it was underground. Insane. Keep in mind though that the drill had to be really underleveled for this to work, but still, a huge shout out to Milo for finding this crazy interaction. Around the same time, Clash Royale introduced the Evo Archers, which were insanely overpowered. Big surprise. They were basically like having two Dark Goblins or Magic Archers on the field. These archers dealt crazy amounts of damage from far away and didn't even die to arrows, which was simply game-breaking. Naturally, Goblin Drill players immediately tried incorporating them into their strategies, and wow, you know, it worked incredibly well. These decks boasted an insane 84% win rate. The best strategy was to split the archers on both sides, making it impossible for the opponent to fireball them, and easily covering both lanes of the arena. Yet despite this success, if we look at the stats, the Goblin Drill slowly began to fade into obscurity. By November, only a handful of players in the top 1,000 were using it. Just look at these huge caps. Rank 199, 305, 405, almost no one played the Goblin Drill at the top of the ladder. By December, the usage rate had dropped to just 1%, although it still maintained a solid 51% win rate. However, Supercell knew they had to do something about this card. And boy, they sure did, as they managed to break the card all over again just a few months later. Fast forward to March of 2024 when Clash Royale introduced a new set of balance changes and a major rework for the Goblin Drill. This time, they increased its lifetime to 10 seconds, up from 9, reduced the first spawn time to 0.5 seconds, down from 1, and decreased its hit points by 8.9%. Among these changes, one stood out above the rest: the reduced spawn time. Now players had no time to react to the first Goblin Stab. You had to predict it, or you were in big trouble. As expected, this pushed the Goblin Drill straight back up to the top of the meta, becoming the best win condition in Clash Royale. From a mere 1% usage rate in February, it skyrocketed to 18% in March. Remarkable. The Goblin Drill was back, and nearly every player was using it. Muhammad Light, Pedro, Riley, you name it. And if that wasn't enough, Clash Royale introduced the Evo Bomber around this time, which was a dream come true for drill fans. The Bomber had always been a great pairing with the Goblin Drill, but its evolved version turned it from a solid splash card into a literal win condition. Naturally, it didn't take long before the Evo Bomber became a staple in every Goblin Drill deck.
Why don't I just snipe that? Yeah, screw defense, dude. Why don't I just, like, attack? Oh, wait. Knight was just gonna die in 2 more shots. Holy. Oh my god. That took out the Night Witch. Dude, the damage it deals is so crazy. Okay, it didn't die to the Golem Death Bomb, which is pretty nice. Okay. He arrows, so I'm gonna go for a Drill and a Bomber. And I'm gonna keep my Nado ready. Oh, he played a Prince in front of his tower. Let's go. Easy lineup. It's hitting it twice. That's so broken. Dude, this evolution is going to be top 3 evolution.
Go in here, then he's going to play something, so I'll go for the pre-Evo Bomber. Let's go. This should be so much damage. Look, it's double bouncing on the tower. It's playing volleyball with the tower. Dude, that just took half the tower.
At this time, the Evo Bomber would evolve every other cycle, so you basically had a 2-elixir Magic Archer on hand every 30 seconds, or thereabout. Sounds pretty overpowered, right? Well, yeah, it definitely was, but on the flip side, this made the Evo Bomber pretty easy to predict. Once your opponent played the regular Bomber, you know the Evo Bomber was coming next, making it harder for them to get any real value from it. But the Evo Bomber wasn't the only card making waves. Evo Skellies were also extremely popular in Goblin Drill decks. These Larrys provided incredible defense, especially if your opponent didn't have Zapper Log ready. When those spells were on hand, sometimes the Skellies would survive anyway, leading to some crazy comebacks. Plus, 3 crowning opponents had never been easier with this broken 1 elixir card.
The evolution skeletons. And this is why all you mid-ladder players out there who are like, oh, why are you putting the skeleton so high on your tier list? Yeah, this is why. this is precisely why I rank the Evo Skelly so high, because they're on the King Tower. All right. This card is so broken, oh my god. It's just simple spell baiting, but hey, just like that, 3 crown for the first game of the video, so.
However, for both our Evo Bomber and Evo Skellies, the time for glory was short-lived. In May, Clash Royale dropped a new set of balance changes that hit them hard. The Evo Bomber now evolved every 2 cycles instead of 1, Evo Skellies got a nerf, increasing their attack time interval by 25%, and to top it all off, the Goblin Drill itself took a hit, with its first spawn time increased to 0.8 seconds, up from 0.5. These changes hurt, no doubt, but Goblin Drill lovers refused to give up. They were always on the lookout for new synergies. Just a few months later, the Goblin Queen update introduced several new Goblin cards, and the most important one was the Goblin Demolisher. This card was like a gift from the heavens, instantly replacing the Bomber in many drill decks. But that wasn't the end of the Goblin Drill's comeback story. Far from it. A few weeks later, the Clash Royale devs introduced the Evo Goblin Drill. After a few months of obscurity, Goblin Drill decks were suddenly back in a big way, and working better than ever.
I heard it's uncounterable. Wait, why is there 2?
It spawns again?
Why is there 3? There's no shot this isn't getting nerfed.
The Evo Goblin Drill was insanely broken before its official release to regular players. Once top players tested it, they immediately gave feedback to the devs, letting them know that it was way too overpowered. As a result, it was nerfed just before its release. The second and third drills would now spawn only 1 goblin upon death, down from 2. Even with this nerf though, the Evo Goblin Drill was still a fantastic evolution. It took some time for players to figure out how to counter it, and by August it had already risen to a 12% usage rate, becoming the best win condition in the game once again. However, the high usage rate of the Goblin Drill wasn't just because of the Evo Drill itself. A big factor was the newly added Goblin Demolisher. This card was an absolute menace for opponents and a fantastic addition to drill decks. The Demolisher provided splash damage to any troop used to counter the Goblin Drill. Then, not only did it tank for the drill, but it also managed to get damage on the tower by blowing up, making it feel like a wall breaker on steroids. This card could completely shift the outcome of a match. And what's even more interesting is that when the Goblin Demolisher was first released, people were saying it was terrible. Some even called it the worst Goblin card ever, but just a few days later, everyone realized how wrong they were. The Goblin Demolisher became a must-have in Goblin Drill decks, though it hasn't found its way into other meta archetypes yet. In my opinion though, that's only a matter of time. Another crucial card in this deck archetype was the Evo Tesla. It really became the alpha and omega of everything. If you pushed aggressively with the Evo Drill and Demolisher, having the Evo Tesla next in your cycle allowed you to easily defend. Its electric wave would beautifully take out swarms and deal with tanks, making aggressive playstyles with this deck highly effective. A shout out goes to Ian77, who absolutely dominated with this deck on the top ladder, reaching the number 9 spot in August and cementing himself as the best Goblin Drill player that month. Unfortunately, around the same time, Clash Royale nerfed the second evolved Goblin Drill, reducing its spawned units from 2 goblins down to just 1. Even with these changes though, the Goblin Drill remains a solid win condition today. While it might not be the top of the meta like it once was, with new card introductions and future balance changes, I believe we'll see the Goblin Drill shining among the best cards in the game once more. But since we've talked so much about the Bomber in this video, you gotta know, he has an insane history of being a 3 elixir card that did 50% more damage and had 50% more HP than he does today. If you're curious to learn more about the Bomber's full history in Clash Royale, make sure to check out this video where I cover his entire journey. I'll see you there.